Hello, everybody. Welcome to Odaily. My name is CH Egan, and I am currently the social media host for Bigot and an inspiring crypto influencer building my own YouTube channel called The Crypto Rabbit Hole. I am very, very honored to have the opportunity to be your host today. Odaily is co-hosting with RockTree Capital for RockTree OG Talk series, where RockTree brings together the greatest minds in Web3 today to bring you the most powerful real-time OG insights in the world. Today, we are discussing regulations and opportunities in Hong Kong's Web3。大家好，欢迎来到 RockTree Capital 和 Odaily 共同举办的 RockTree OG Talk 系列元宗会谈节目。我是主持人 CH Egan， 我本身是 Bigot 的社交媒体主持人，那我也有自己的 Web3 YouTube 频道。每期的 OG Talk RockTree 都会聚集 Web3 领域的先锋人物。为您带来全球最有深度的 OG 观点和各赛道领军企业的最新资讯。今天我们将会讨论的是 Hong Kong Web3 的监管和机遇。All right, so RockTree Capital, is an international investment fund and merchant bank at the forefront of pioneering transactions and investments between North America and Greater China. RockTree's team focuses on early stage investment as well as bringing global ecosystem support for leading Web3 and mobile e-commerce projects. Its network of global funds, exchanges, net media, and Web3 industry partners have allowed it to produce one of the highest quality early stage Web3 investment funds in the world that delivers accelerated global growth for top founders and teams. Omer Ozden, chairman of RockTree Capital, is also an international partner of Zen Fund. He was on the team that invented the VIE structure that opened China's internet industry to foreign investment and has worked at early stages and IPOs of companies like Baidu, Alibaba, New Oriental, NetEase, and Facebook. Omer has unique insights as the decacorn hunter, which is the 10 billion market cap hunter, and is renowned in the global crypto investment industry. He has successfully invested in the early stages of some of today's most well-known Web3 companies, such as Chainlink, The Graph, DYDX, Ren, Phantom, Maple, Pocket Network, etc. With Omer's leadership, RockTree Capital has become one of Web3's premier funds that links the very best of the Western crypto market and the very best of the Eastern crypto market. The RockTree team in Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, Singapore, New York, and Toronto includes a full team of crypto native finance, capital market, digital marketing, and legal compliance experts that provide a truly global solution to blockchain projects. Top projects get connected into RockTree's international ecosystem. Okay, let's begin. Today, I'm very honored to speak with our four esteemed guests, and I will kindly ask each to introduce yourselves and the company after I call on you. First, we have Omer Ozden, who is the chairman of RockTree Capital. Omer, it is a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, CH. 大家好，我是 Omer Ozden, CEO of RockTree Capital, 欧阳墨，世木资本的创始人。Thank you for the introduction, and I really look forward to hearing from our guests today, who we've known for many years, going back to prior bear and bull markets, friends from Beijing, Hong Kong, and other locations.
Indeed. Thank you for that. I'm very, very excited for all of our talks today as well. Jonathan Gill, who is the senior legal counsel at Hashkey Group. Jonathan, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks very much, CH. Yeah, I'm Jonathan, and I structure and execute utility and security tokens at Hashkey. And I also advise on Hong Kong virtual assets regulation. As a bit of background, Hashkey is an end-to-end digital financial services group in Asia. And from a Hong Kong perspective, we actually have one of Hong Kong's 2 virtual asset licenses for dealing in securities and for operating an automated trading service.
All right, thank you for that. It's a pleasure to have you. Henry Yu, principal partner of L&Y Law Office. It is a pleasure to have you. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. So it's very nice to see all of you here to share some of the regulatory landscape in Hong Kong. So I've been practicing lawyer for over 20 years, and I've been in private practice and in-house for investment banking, and I set up my own law firm, L&Y Law Office, 7 years ago to fully focus on the crypto. So I have been advising on exchanges, funds, and different projects. Yeah, so really look forward to sharing with all of you here.
Fantastic. Really excited to pick your brain for our topic tonight. Last but not least, we have Asher Wu, who is the head of global marketing at Gate.io. Asher, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, CH. I come from Gate.io. Gate.io is one of the earliest exchanges established back in 2013. We are one of the biggest exchanges out there offering services related to trading multiple digital assets, and it's grown to users over 10 million over the past years. I mean, we're consistently considered one of the top 10 current cryptocurrency exchanges based on quoting and trading volume on all the major ranking websites out there. And we are offering other services such as decentralized finances, research, analytics, venture capital, investing labs, and more. Looking forward to talking to everybody today.
Thank you so much for that, Asher. Fantastic. So let's dive into today's topic. First, let's discuss, of course, recently Hong Kong has started to broadly embrace Web3, DLTs, cross-chain infrastructure, NFTs, metaverse, gaming, plus much more, and also prepare for a future that includes stablecoins and CBDCs. This brings amazing opportunities for people in Web3. Now, of course, the question is, what should we think about Hong Kong's crypto-friendly policies? What are the opportunities and challenges for institutional and retail investors? And how should we correctly view this new world in which a Web3 Hong Kong exists? Let's start with Henry, let's start with you on this one.
So I think that will be very, very interesting because for the past 2-3 years, right? I think a lot of people, including particularly the Chinese base of players, they have moved their headquarters to, let's say, Singapore, right, or some other jurisdictions, right? And a lot of them left Hong Kong, partly particular reasons because they see cryptocurrencies being banned totally in China, and they see Hong Kong as part of China, and so they think like Hong Kong would, will follow the same policies sometime in the future. But to the surprise of a lot of people, and actually, Hong Kong had made a different stance. I mean, and of course, our chief executive made it very clear by addressing to all the people. Hong Kong want to be a digital hub, right? And since then, I think what's even more important is the last few months. And then actually, even you can see, other than our chief executive, some of even the Chinese officials and our Chinese PLCs entities had actually up and endorsed the digital assets and even Web3. So this is an endorsement by everyone, and including the officials and the government and even the enterprises. So they see it as a lot of people see Hong Kong as a test ground. You know, the culture of the Chinese government, right? A lot of people see this like Hong Kong will be a test ground for the next 2 years. If everything goes well, there may be an opportunity for like China to open it gradually. So
Very
I think
interesting.
A lot of people, thousands of people have come to Hong Kong. We receive a lot of inquiries for the past few months. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure of it. Thank you so much, Henry, for those insights. Omer, let's go with you next. What are your insights on this?
So RockTree's 2 headquarters are in New York and in Beijing. And I think something in the United States, one of the trends in the United States is a lot of the Web3 community moved to New York because New York is a natural capital markets center for America. And Hong Kong is a natural capital markets center for China. The infrastructure is there, the people are there, and the tradition is there for finance. And as we know, the first major application of Web3 is finance, decentralized finance, centralized finance, and other areas that are expanding that even Wall Street hasn't even learned about today. So I think moving things to Hong Kong and making it a portal is a natural fit for Hong Kong. One thing that Hong Kong has traditionally lacked, because I lived there, I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, lived in Beijing, Taipei, New York. One thing that Hong Kong has traditionally lacked is 创始人. It's lacked the entrepreneurs. Even in Web 1 and Web 2, the entrepreneurs came from mainland. They came from Beijing, Hangzhou, Jiangsu, all these types of places. And so it's really important that Hong Kong is a portal, but still it's cheaper to have a large degree of developers and entrepreneurs that are much more active in the mainland. So you need both. I think this will act as a nice window to help grow technology in the mainland and other places.
Great points. Thank you for that. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with what Henry was saying. I think Hong Kong's provided a lot more clarity about its Web3 policies recently. Particularly, they've adopted an approach of same business, same risks, same rules. So I think that's a really good approach because it allows industry participants to apply their experience from traditional securities regulation, and you're not reinventing the wheel. I guess in terms of opportunities, I focus on tokenization, and I'm passionate about the ability to facilitate liquidity for high value liquid assets such as real estate, art, or wine. And in terms of challenges, I think when determining value, it's important not to be distracted about cheap headlines about short-term crypto volatility. I think if you tokenize an asset, it doesn't make its value less predictable and subject to more changes. And if anything, it probably enables better price discovery.
All right. Very excited to see how that plays out. Thank you. Last but not least, we have Asher. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think having regulatory policy and having Hong Kong as a crypto-friendly space is very beneficial to the world and economy as a whole, in terms of the community of what the crypto environment represents. If we use an analogy with music, I think in the past, without regulatory policies and all this governmental opening of the governments going on, the crypto space has always kind of been underground, right? For us to really jump out of the circle and become mainstream, I think having policies in place, regular policies that are instilled and are very fair and makes the environment and gives the crypto community an outlet where we can speak out for ourselves and let more people come into us and get more of our audience outside of what used to be a very small generalized population, to have widespread adaptation of cryptos and Web3s and all that stuff that comes into consideration of what our community represents. It's great for us as a whole. We're attracting new talents, we're attracting new people, we're attracting new liquidity, and most of all, we're really increasing the level of trust between what our community represents to the general mass. So I think in that term and sense, it's great for everybody working in the industry right now.
Indeed, regulatory certainty is so important, right? So that's how you can have the proliferation of the sector coming to life. Amazing. Thank you for that. Omer, you are considered to be an OG in China's technology markets. Of course, you moved to China in the 90s, before many of us were even born, the early 90s. And you're in Beijing working with the first internet companies for their VC deals and IPOs like Baidu, NetEase, and Alibaba. You've seen various stages of China's digital industry growth. So what's been your impression on the recent developments in Hong Kong?
你知道90年代初，我第一次在北京创业的时候，北京还没有4环，中关村还是土路。那个时候 Web 1、Web 2刚刚开始，更难。It was much more difficult at that time. 外方投资在国内的互联网公司是违法，什么都是违法。At that time, we didn't have the permission to do a lot of things. However, I was on the team that invented the regulatory structures, the VIE structure, that ultimately allowed foreign investors to invest into Chinese internet companies like the ones you mentioned, and we IPO'd them on the NASDAQ. And so I just want to say to everybody, the general trend of China, 还是改革开放，还是 opening up. For technology especially, it needs to continue to open up. There will be difficult times that go back and forth and different experiments. Obviously, Hong Kong is a great source. Hong Kong has always been a window for China to have a different type of infrastructure and access to global markets. It's always been in that position. And again, it's being utilized for that purpose for this technology. last couple of years have been difficult for a lot of people in crypto for China. And actually, a lot of crypto people left. I think we are one of the only remaining Waifang Web3 投资者，还留在北京，还留在中国。We're still inside China, even when a lot of Chinese left the market too. And it's because we know the long term, 那个中国的大趋势 the long-term trend is opening. And so there may be difficulties, there may be good times, but generally it's towards opening. And this step with Hong Kong, 18 months after markets closed, July 1, 2021, is a part of that general trend. And that's why RockTree is still in China.
Yes, thank you for those insightful comments. Thank you so much. Next, I want to call on Jonathan. Of course, HashKey Group has now become the first company in the world to obtain respective licenses in Hong Kong and Japan to operate a virtual asset trading platform, in addition to an exemption to operate in Singapore under the Monetary Authority of Singapore's Payment Services Act. These developments are undoubtedly exciting for both your firm and the wider industry. But let's focus on Hong Kong for now. As one of only two SFC Type 7 licensed virtual asset firms in the city, can you please give us your insights on how the SFC has approached regulating virtual assets over the years and how their new guidelines and overarching framework differ from other hubs like Singapore or even the US?
Yeah, sure, CH. I'll try and run through each of the three jurisdictions for you. So first, Hong Kong. I guess to zoom out, Hong Kong's got a couple of key regulators. So as you said, you have the SFC, which obviously regulates securities and futures. And then you've got the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, which sort of ensures the stability of the dollar and the banking and financial systems more broadly. Now, I think the SFC has been trying to understand the virtual assets industry since at least 2018. So it was a real sort of early mover. And like I said, now, in the last couple of months, we've had this same business, same risk, same rules approach, which I think is a good thing. And I mean, it means that, investors and regulated entities like HashKey can get a lot of certainty and comfort from this. But having said that, we have this situation whereby the two regulators have sort of felt that cryptocurrencies, as in not security tokens, but cryptocurrencies like, say, Bitcoin, have sort of fallen outside both their regulatory purviews, because the SFC says, well, they're not securities, they're not futures. And the HKMA says, well, they're not money or money's worth. So I think now the government is now amending the anti-money laundering ordinance, and that's going to bring crypto within the SFC regulatory purview. So I think that's a good thing. So very quickly, that was Hong Kong. So Singapore is a little bit more straightforward in that you just have one all-powerful regulator, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. And again, that was another very early mover. But its regulations sort of seem to focus a little bit more on AML and technology risk, and increasingly sort of consumer protection. Whereas the SFC's article of faith is essentially investor protection. So it's a slightly different approach. I think one big difference between Singapore and Hong Kong is that the MAS really restricts the marketing of digital assets or digital payment token services to the general public in Singapore. So if you go to Singapore, you won't see advertisements, on the MRT or in the media in the same way that you might in Hong Kong. So that's a big change. And then at the other end of the complexity spectrum, you've got the US. So that's a much more complicated regime. So as you know, the US has got a federal system. So depending on the legal classification of virtual assets, you've got potentially both state and federal laws kicking in. So you could have money transmitter licenses, securities laws, commodity regimes, and each of these has got their own regulator and regulations. And I think the other difference is from a regulatory perspective, you see the US has taken a much more muscular and interventionist approach to virtual assets regulation. So you've seen quite a few high-profile legal actions for things like staking and classification of crypto as securities.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic insights. Thank you. Definitely some good perspectives there. And of course, Jonathan, I know that you're also a tokenization connoisseur yourself, and HashKey is also a proponent of real-world asset tokenization being one of the most valuable use cases of blockchain technology. So in what way do you think regulation unlocks the potential of tokenization? And does Hong Kong offer a favorable environment for real-world asset tokenization to be adopted at an institutional and enterprise level?
Oh yeah, I think regulation is a good thing. I think it gives asset issuers and owners, certainty and comfort. And I think if tokenization really does rival TradFi as a sort of viable method of raising mainstream capital, you really do need regulation. So I think in that sense, we're seeing a real flight to licensed entities, operating clear regulatory regimes, especially during crypto winter. So I think regulation goes from being a burden to being a competitive advantage. To answer your second question, I think Hong Kong's got a good regulatory regime, but there are a couple of things they could probably do to encourage the growth of the industry. I think until recently, the SFC had stated that only PIs or professional investors would hold security tokens because they're so-called complex products. Now, I think that's quite a conservative position to take because virtual assets themselves are not complex products and securities are not complex products. But when you tokenize securities, suddenly they do become complex products. Now, that's not great for us because that cuts out retail investors, which is a potentially big portion of our sort of client base. Now, the SFC sort of recently relaxed its position for vanilla products, but it says that where tokens features don't have the legal wrapper of a financial instrument, they're still going to be deemed complex products. So there's a little bit of way to go there. And I think the second thing that Hong Kong doesn't do is it doesn't include crypto in the calculation of a professional investor's wealth. So that's not good for a virtual assets exchange like us because we have many potential clients who are crypto rich and meet the PI threshold, but they're relatively speaking cash poor. So again, that affects the size of our potential client base. So I think those are two of the sort of big things that I think Hong Kong could do to really boost their sort of reputation as a crypto assets hub.
All right. Well, I hope some regulators are listening in and they can make that happen. So thank you for those insights. All right. Next, I want to bring up Henry. With the direction Hong Kong is going in Web3, this must be a very interesting time for your group. Can you maybe please quickly let us know what type of services your firm provides in Web3? What are some notable recent developments in the Hong Kong virtual asset market and regulatory landscape? Could you maybe tell us about the latest developments in those four things? A is the new VASP licensing regime, and the Type 1, which is dealing in securities, and Type 9, which is asset management, regulated activities, of course, regulation of stablecoins. And lastly, how is Hong Kong looking at CBDC utilization?
Well, this is a very big topic, I must say. I can talk for an hour, or there's a seminar on this, but just to keep it short, right? So as a firm, we help as a law firm, right? So we help the client to of course, to deal with the legal and regulatory issues from securities, IPOs, M&A's work to compliance, licensing, or even litigation arbitrations or SEC investigations per se. So it's a full range. I think our job will be, let's say, before this year, right? So since 2016, 17, you remember still the ICO or IEO, and then the DeFi thing, because the regulation will be, I think, less clear, put it this way. So we are actually helping the projects to sail through this uncertainty so they can still achieve the goal despite the uncertainty in law and regulations. I think that was our job before. But now I think for the past 6 months, I think that our role is slightly different now. I think that the key theme on a worldwide basis is how the law is clearer. And now we got the licensing regime, the VASP, which will come into. So we're helping indeed including exchanges and the projects and some of the crypto funds as well to help them to comply with the laws and regulation, which are much clearer now. And actually to liaise with the regulators, trying to how to push and advance the laws and regulations. I think that's the first thing. I think when you come to the VASP, I think there's a really good example, because when we first, you remember a little bit of the history, back in 2018 and 19, that's the time when SEC first indicate, right? They wanted to regulate the crypto exchange. But unfortunately, they say, oh, I don't have any experience with that. So they invite all these exchanges to come to the sandbox, right? And so therefore, OSL and Hashkey got what they call the Type 7 license, right? Which is the STO sort of related license. But they just, but the drawback of that Type 7 regime is that basically is a voluntary basis. There's still some crypto exchanges in town which have not obtained the Type 7 license. Now, like with the new VSC regime, now every exchange, crypto exchange, if they want to operate in Hong Kong or a market in Hong Kong, would now need to be obtain the license. So I think that's a good thing. So it's a lot clearer, putting every exchanges on the same footing. So we have received and also a lot of inquiries on the new VSP, right? And even the market room is that will be around like 140, 150 at least interested parties to apply for their licenses, including some of the big exchanges, which they have already publicly indicate their interest in doing so. So there's a really good, interesting thing to see. And I think I totally agree with Jonathan. Yeah, they have done a really good job. They're very good job, despite that. I'm sure they've spent and congratulations to them. And they spent a lot of time and effort in securing that Type 7, the second Type 7 license in history. But that I know. But I must warn all the potential applicants, right? It's not a very straightforward compared to the other SFC licenses, because a lot of the applicants, they say, oh, they have the experience in getting the Type 1, which is a broker-dealer license, Type 9 asset management license with the SFC. They thought that could be as easy as that, but sorry, I mean, I think it's quite clear that is a complete different ballgame, and the cost and time involved will be different. I'm sure Hashkey can share with you how much effort they put in that. So I would say, yeah, if you do want determined to get this, then you have to put a lot of resources in that in the next 12 months, right? At least to get that. But I think, so when we say, oh, what if we don't have that sort of resources to get the VSP license, for example, what could they do? I sometimes advise the client to get, you can start off with something a little bit easier, let's say the Type 1 and Type 9, but there still could be virtual assets related as well. So in Hong Kong, SFC already allowed some of the Type 1 license to uplift that broker-dealer license to handle virtual assets or cryptocurrencies. But I think one of the major conditions is that they have to trade through a licensed platform in Hong Kong, including, let's say, Hashkey, right? So they must trade through either just the introducing agent model or the omnibus model with Hashkey or OSL, for example. And Type 9, very interestingly, I think there are quite a good number of crypto asset management firms already uplift their license, and they're able to deal with like 100% in cryptocurrencies as well. And I can see a lot more, because with the new VSP license regime, there are a lot more traditional asset management firms who are planning to uplift their license to trade crypto. That's what we have been seeing. And on the stable coins, yeah, is another big topic, because as you can see, Hong Kong MA has already announced that they will regulate the stablecoin if they are backed by the fiat currencies. So we're expecting some, of course, the new laws and regulations that will come into place, at least some consultation by the end of this year. That I think that's the current time frame. That will be very interesting, because stablecoin will be I would say one of the major cornerstone for the development of the platform as well. We have also received some inquiries on how and when is a suitable time and model to issue the stable coins. The interesting thing is that, because actually a lot of people are not aware, we have in Hong Kong actually laws, which is called a Storefare Facilities Ordinance, in order to launch that sort of stable coin. But a lot of them don't. So far, Hong Kong MA has not granted any SVF license to any grantees to launch a stable coin. So it's a good, interesting to see whether, in the future, once this new law and regulations come into place, they will actually grant license for people to issue a stable coin backed by, let's say, is it backed by Hong Kong D or backed by renminbi, the offshore renminbi, or backed by a basket, some of the Hong Kong RMB plus some of the other foreign currency. Yeah, some of them already indicate that they want to issue a stable coin, let's say for foreign trade, yeah, international trades. That would be interesting if that could be, yeah, that could take place in Hong Kong as well. So yeah, I think that I have covered most all the topics to see whether you have any more question.
Yeah, Henry, question here, just so with respect to stablecoin, obviously Hong Kong dollar is a major consideration with the Hong Kong backs. What about CNH, overseas renminbi? You heard anything about that?
Yes. Exactly. I'm gonna say yes for the Hong Kong D, right? I think that will be challenging because, as all of you know, right, Hong Kong, even the Hong Kong government, Hong Kong MA has its own plan to launch the Hong Kong D. So one thing I would say, I would warn the if there's already the Hong Kong D, what's the incentive for, let's say, Hong Kong MA to grant another license for you to launch a Hong Kong D back stable coin, right? To compete with the Hong Kong D, right? I think that will be, it's not a legal question, it's more, I think it's a political question. But for the offshore renminbi, I think for in line with the Chinese, even not the Hong Kong policy, even the China policy, in order to internationalize the renminbi, right, in an overall scheme. So I believe someone will definitely take the role in launching a stable coin backed by the offshore. I think the question is who, right? Is that will be a very interesting thing, right? Would they allow Minty, right, in that sense, right, to do this, or would they be actually hopefully maybe a bank or even a state-owned bank to do this on behalf to do the offshore, because it's not a pure legal regulatory issues, right? It's more, I think it's a policy issues, isn't it?
Indeed. Wow. Fantastic insights. Yes, it's definitely still its nascent stages, of course. So it's really interesting to see how it plays out. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay. Next, I want to call on Asher. Asher, as a well-known exchange in the industry, what are some latest developments with Gate.io? How do you see Gate and the global landscape of exchanges evolving with a Web3 friendly Hong Kong environment? What does this mean for retail, and what does it mean for up and coming projects now having a larger market to grow their community? And do you see a shift happening in the world where Hong Kong will emerge as a new Web3 capital, maybe even taking businesses from other parts of the world like Europe and North America?
Yeah, thanks, CH, for those questions. Very great questions. To start things off, a little bit about the latest developments of Gate.io. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary this week, marking a decade of widespread driven cryptocurrency adaptation across the globe. And if everyone has kept up with the market lately, we should all somewhat heard about how Gate.io is the first to be supporting BRC20 on our trading currency platform. I mean, Gate.io for the past decade has been at the forefront of driving blockchain and blockchain on-chain technology across the globe, adapting not just Bitcoin, Ethereum, but all different types of communities and all different types of chains on our platform. In terms of how I see Gate and the global landscape of how exchanges evolving Web3 friendly Hong Kong environment, I think it's a great opportunity, both to be into C retail. Opening Hong Kong to widespread crypto adaptation is like opening a whole ethnicity. I mean, as of now, once the regulation kicks in, communicating and marketing to Chinese-speaking communities have become free game, not just for exchanges, but for projects as a whole. It doesn't matter if you're layer 0, 1, 2, or just on the sidelines working with NFTs. The whole Chinese ethnicity right now is waiting for this impact and waiting for to be reached. I know that previously with the mainland regulatory issues and a lot of the regulatory issues across the globe, a lot of the Chinese-speaking community have been blocked off from a lot of the blockchain technology updates and a lot of the blockchain news is out there. With the chance of regulatory policy being open in Hong Kong, it's a whole new level playing field from what we've been experiencing for the past 2 years. And for retail and upcoming projects, it means that now you really have to pay attention, not just in media space, but also in user space of adapting to what Chinese-speaking users might be appealed to. It doesn't matter if it's tokenization of projects, doesn't matter if it's the implications of what public blockchain uses across the globe in terms of what it brings to real life issues or online issues. I think it marks a time and a point of our community where we can say for certain that the shift of power might be coming back a little back to the APAC side from what we've been experiencing, like what Henry or some of our other speakers have been noticing about New York and North America, a lot of things like that. In terms of how seeing Hong Kong emerging as a Web3 capital, I would say it is attracting or seeing opportunities for not just exchanges in general, but for projects in general to be open to a lot more liquidity in the market. Since Luna, since a lot of the issues that we've been seeing in terms of black swans in the past year, I think the integrity of the crypto market, especially in the AVAX space, has taken a huge hit. And I think the opening of Hong Kong and the shift in Hong Kong policy would build a new bridge of the gap between the underground or the small community of what crypto used to be into developing or penetrating as a widespread adaptation of what the global atmosphere would see crypto as to become. As spoken of by Henry just before me, stablecoins, governments, everybody's looking into developing or have plans to be developing for stablecoins in general. And that's a huge indicator, especially in the confidence of what Hong Kong and maybe even indication of what mainland government has in place for an entire geographic space of what Hong Kong would represent in terms of how we're going to see the changes of the crypto industry's resurgence in Asia. So I think with all these factors in place, it is really important to see what's going to be happening, not just from the governmental side, but also from the exchange side. I mean, it's a race to get those VASP licenses for everybody, including Gate. I mean, we are absolutely on what Hong Kong is about to bring to the entire industry and the community as a whole. We've been running and we've been planning and having a lot of the compliance regulatory documents and licensing preparations in place for years already. So I would say in terms of what we see Hong Kong would represent as absolutely bullish. So that's kind of what I have for Hong Kong.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Asher. You're absolutely right. It was definitely a breath of fresh air to see Hong Kong open up after the bloodbath that has happened in crypto. So definitely great to see. Of course, Hong Kong faces challenges in becoming a Web3 global center. One is that the existing regulatory framework designed for traditional finance may not be as suitable for the rapidly developing crypto world. The high barriers to obtaining legal licenses have made it a mature market more conducive to institutions, but innovation often comes from unpredictable grassroots. So in the face of this somewhat awkward convergence of regulation and innovation, what do you think will happen? Like, what should Hong Kong balance this relationship between the two? Does Hong Kong have a good chance to drive the global crypto industry's resurgence from Asia? Omar, I want to start with you on this one.
As I said earlier, New York is the center of Web3 now in the United States because it's a natural capital market center. It's moved from Silicon Valley to New York, and Hong Kong is a natural capital market center in China. And so I think because the first use case, the major use case is finance, it's great that Hong Kong has been selected to develop this regulatory regime that gives institutions comfort to say, okay, you got a green light here. You can be comfortable here. There's a legal structure here. Even myself, I'm a lawyer by background, not just an investor. And so that's important to us. That's important to large capital from around the world. And now you even have foreign companies, even US companies, looking at Hong Kong as a viable location, as a viable jurisdiction to establish. And that not only revitalizes Hong Kong economy, but the entire Greater China region. So I think that there's a lot of innovation in the region, but without money, it's meaningless. And so you need the intersection of both money and entrepreneur and innovation. And so this is a great step. And RockTree Capital, we invest in projects that are at the nexus of the US and China. And so we see this as a great opportunity for our fund.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jonathan, let's go with you next. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, CH, look, I don't see, as I said, I don't really see regulation as a burden, as a competitive advantage. I mean, to sort of pick up on what Omer was saying, regulatory certainty is really necessary to attract investment, which funds innovation. And, I do think Hong Kong has a good chance to drive the industry's resurgence out of this crypto winter. I mean, it's an international financial center. It's got a well-known, respected legal system, and so that's why I think, the same business, same risk, same rules is the right approach. And a lot of other jurisdictions, including the PRC, are going to be watching us very closely. I think the framework is suitable, but I think it's the way in which it's applied could be tweaked a little, as I've said, earlier.
All right. Thank you for those insights. Asher, what are your thoughts on this?
I think regulatory guidelines are great for the space in the sense that it provides clear guidelines on where we should innovate, types of deals, type of projects, or type of applications of what blockchain technology represents can have in terms of being regulated. I think in the sense of what we've experienced over the past 2-3 years, I mean, it's been bullish, it's been bearish. There's been black swans, there's been rug pulls. There's been a lot of projects that made real impact to the world in terms of what it brings to the economy and how it changes our lives. I think regulation just adds on to that, and it shifts gears, telling projects, telling entrepreneurs, and letting the general mass know that these projects right now, they have a meaning to them. I mean, being regulated just means that we are being acknowledged by governments and being acknowledged by the general mass that we are a real thing. I mean, a lot of people see Web3, see the crypto industry as something literally virtual because they don't see where we work, how we work, and the real impact of what our technology and what we're building has real impact to the world. So I think having the stamp on the paper and letting the world know, especially in an important place in such a traditional financial center as in Hong Kong, really puts us on the main center stage in a global environment. It just helps increase the global mass application of what cryptocurrency and what our community can represent to the world.
Indeed.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Jonathan and Asher said, people have the conception that technology is just coding and from engineers and so forth, but actually technology is also code in the sense of law. And so technology is also what the lawyers provide and what the regulators provide. And those jurisdictions that have a high level of technology for the regulatory system will prosper the most.
I couldn't agree more, indeed. And the crypto genie is out of the bottle. So it's nice to finally see the governments recognizing that and finally getting some regulatory clarity. Amazing insights. Great. Henry, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think like for Hong Kong, right, I think it's a good potential to be the Web3 capitals and all that. But I think some of the people, if you look at the newspaper and all that, right, some say, oh, we are lacking the talents or we are lacking the funds, money, and all that, right? But I think it's I've been thinking through all this, right? But I think the most important thing out of all this is actually the regulatory mindset. What I meant by that is, because if you look at we are now having, I've been quite clear, as Jonathan has mentioned, at the first question, right? We're now having SFC as the regulator over this sort of the crypto industry. Of course, they have their long, I think it's a very good reputation in the traditional finance. And then they're using, as they mentioned, is the same risk, same approach. But that will be also the danger of it. Why is it the case? Because if you look at, if you're aware, for the traditional SFC licenses, right, type 1 to 10, right, for particularly type 1 or type 9, they expect there are hundreds of these type 1 licensees. And most of them, from the SFC mindset, they are all the same. A very similar business model, the same as the asset management, or I granted type 9 licenses, so that all very similar. Now, I think the question, as some of you have pointed out, that we are in an innovative industry. What does it mean is that we are advancing, and the business models keep changing. For example, I think one of very good in the last few months, right? Of course, when they design, let's say, for example, the BSP license, I think in the mindset, they're targeting the exchanges like Hashkey or OSL. And with that, they are thinking of some of the biggest exchanges out there as well, right? The traditional one, you would say Binance or Coinbase or OK or Huobi and all this, right? Or Qcoin or Crypto.com or FTX, right? In the past. So when they thinking of this, if you look at the term condition, they are targeting that sort of thing and use that as this is the typical business model. Everyone should use the same business model, and then I could put the same terms and conditions on them. But unfortunately, because there are different models, if you look at the drafting of the regulations of law, actually, you may think of and already come across some of the business model which are not typical exchanges, but which could, technically speaking, fall within that definition under the VSP license. Then the question is, would and how SFC is SFC willing to regulate them? Because the question is, I can't fulfill and I don't fulfill all these term conditions because of the various reasons. But as a business model, is innovative, it still serve the same purpose. And then if you look at some of the wallets, right? I think the app, right? Some of them could technically fall into that, but I don't think that is in the mindset of the regulators right now. As to now all instead I have to regulate that, but how? That's not the thing. So we have actually we'll establish a association, an industrial association. Hashkey is one of the founding member, and we're going to announce it very soon. Hopefully by the end of this month or early next month, is that all the licensed virtual assets firms in Hong Kong will come together, including all the supporting or service providers like the audit firms, cybersecurity firms, or custody. They will come together and try to push and try with the regulator, negotiator, and tell them actually what's the best standard in order for not just for the current status, right? We're trying to push through what's the right direction for the development. We should wait and see.
Indeed. Yes, very exciting news. All right, thank you for sharing. Now, Omer, next up, I want to ask you, so the US government has been becoming increasingly stifling towards the crypto industry innovations and developments. These measures, they've made the crypto industry in the US face significantly uncertainty and hindered the development of many high-quality crypto companies and projects. Some US-based crypto companies have even had to relocate to other countries or jurisdictions with more friendly policies. Unfortunately, some had to even abandon their businesses altogether. Do you think strict regulatory policies in the US will shift this leading center of the crypto industry from the US to Hong Kong? And how do you see the global landscape playing out? And what does it mean for international investment funds like RockTree?
Okay, so with respect to the US, we've definitely seen a trend, particularly recently with the federal regulators to start becoming more strict with crypto. And it's not that they're releasing regulation, it's that they're performing regulation through enforcement, which means they make things unclear and then just punish people when people don't know what to do. And we've seen that with Kraken. We've seen that even now with Coinbase. However, The great thing about crypto is that it's related to finance. And so a lot of these groups are well funded and they can fight back. And one great thing about the US system is that there is some aspects of decentralization. Even if the federal government wants to attack crypto, the court system is decentralized. And so there's more of an even playing field there. We've seen yesterday, okay, 昨天那个美国的证券委员会的主席 one of the commissioners, Hester Paris, came out and said that the US regulatory framework for Web3 特别落后, meaning it's backwards, and that the US should look to the models set up by UK and also the EU. The EU has new regulatory regime that's coming out called MiCA, and it clarifies its stance on a number of aspects such as stablecoin, utility token, and so forth. And so this has stifled innovation in the US. That's one. And it has, I've seen certain investors and certain projects go offshore, but this has been going on since 2017, 2018. One of the issues that we saw in this round is that, I don't know if people, the audience is aware, everybody's aware that Silvergate and Signature Bank, which are fiat and to crypto on-ramp, off-ramp banks, are no longer in existence. But actually, Signature Bank was solvent, and it was forced by the government to close down. And so this is not a good signal from the federal regulators. However, the amazing thing about technology, the amazing thing about this globe, is that whoever is more competitive, whoever takes advantage of opportunity, whoever has a more level playing field will prosper the most. We know that. We know that from the history of the world, and America has been a big champion of that. So as soon as these two banks closed down, you saw the international arms of the state-owned banks in China aggressively going after fiat to crypto business in Southeast Asia, Bank of China, Bank of Communications, and so forth. And that was within weeks. So this market operates very quickly. If you close your door, like the US is starting to close the door, within a year, 18 months, it's going to become painfully obvious your best and brightest minds have left, because smart people are mobile and decentralized, and that the government is stifling innovation, which makes them much, much weaker.
Indeed, you're absolutely spot on. You know, the SEC is using the Howey test, which was created back from the 1940s as the framework for crypto, which makes no sense at all. And it certainly seems like the US government is waging war on crypto, you know, with Elizabeth Warren, the senator, really talking smack. Either way, I think the US really certainly needs some regulatory certainty before we can really move forward and proliferate the industry. Omer, thank you so much for those insights. And also, I just want to thank all of you gentlemen for such impressive insights and industry knowledge. I think really the audience now probably is a lot more confident moving forward with the future of crypto. Do you have any last remarks? Jonathan, let's start with you.
Yeah, look, it's been a fantastic discussion. I just want to thank my fellow panelists. I think, you know, Hong Kong really is in the right place at the right time. We recently hosted, we ran our own Web3 festival in Hong Kong, and it was really encouraging to see both, you know, private capital and the government come together and get behind the industry. There was a real vote of confidence from all sectors. So we're quite excited about Hong Kong. You know, we're right across Asia as well. Hong Kong is our base, but yeah, we're looking forward to being part of the next wave of Web3.
Absolutely. And it's been fantastic talking with you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure. Henry, any last remarks?
Yeah, thanks for the fellow panelists. Yeah, this is a great discussion. I really enjoyed that. I think everyone's to come to conclusions, right? I think it's come to Hong Kong, right? Is if you want to develop any of the project or existing projects, or want to even start a new one, right? Whether it's the exchanges, stable coins, or some of the new products and projects, right? Hong Kong will be a good place for you. One thing we should really look out for is that we are all expecting the regulators will open up the retail market to exchanges like Hashkey, right? And everyone's wait and see what's of the retail response, right? Would have a huge influence by the general public to go to Hashkey and the OSL to open accounts, right? And to trade cryptos. We're not saying that that will be. I think that is very significant because, and then the next big thing is how would, let's say, Type 7 or VSP licensees like Hashkey will be able to onboard, I was saying, let's say the mainlanders to come to Hong Kong to trade cryptos, right? If that actually happen, I think in the next few months, right, I think that will be really great news. And then we will be expecting a lot more opening out for, let's say, some of the other products, let's say the STO or even derivatives, right, options and futures, right? That's something that we could expect to take place in the future in Hong Kong. And that will be fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. Henry, thank you for your breadth of knowledge in this space. Very much appreciated. Asher, any last remarks?
Yeah, thank you for everybody for a beautiful discussion today. I think in terms of what Gate.io stands for, Hong Kong is really big to us, and we're really big on Hong Kong. As Henry has spoken about, it's really quite interesting to see how the policy is going to react from now on, especially once or if retail is going to be opened up. I think in terms of what Gate.io represents and what we want to drive, for the past decade, 10 years in business, we're really trying to develop and drive widespread adaptation of what crypto and blockchain technology can do for the world in general. We're really trying to make a difference in terms of not just trading, but in building a community and environment, and hoping the general mass can accept us in the fact that crypto and blockchain really changed the world. I think it's really obvious, especially with everything that's been going on in the past year. And Gate.io has always been at the center stone of everything that's been happening, including BRC, including a lot of the Redux technology that's been at the forefront of our industry. So we're looking forward to Hong Kong, and we're hoping that Hong Kong will welcome us.
Absolutely. And huge congratulations for having that 10-year anniversary. That's not an easy feat. I know a decade in crypto is pretty much 100 years in other markets. So huge congratulations to you. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Asher. And last but not least, we have Omer, who of course is the chairman of RockTree Capital. Any last remarks for our audience?
Yeah, this has been a really enjoyable and insightful conversation. I want to thank our guests, actually, who are old friends. I've known Hashkey from days in Shanghai, Shaofang, DC, and others, where we've co-invested into projects. So thank you, Jonathan. I remember the founder of Gate.io, before Gate.io even started, pitched us in Macau. So thank you, Asher, for your highly insightful views. And Henry, I remember back 6 years ago, you were in Korea. You stopped by Beijing to visit our office on the way to Hong Kong in 2017. So these are old friends, and we're here today, and we see a lot of optimism, particularly for the Hong Kong market. Hong Kong market has the infrastructure to create a platform that is important, not only for Hong Kong, but for China in general, the region, and even the globe. This is great for Web3. And we're really looking forward to investing into some exciting projects and helping them grow over the next several years. 谢谢大家.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the thing is, as long as Omer is here, you know the opportunities is here as well.
You're the OG.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. So for those of you who are watching the show, if you like RockTree OG Talk series, please follow RockTree's Twitter at RockTree Capital, as well as RockTree WeChat official account, 实木资本. Thank you all once again. That about concludes our panel tonight. We hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.